And I hereby call this regular scheduled meeting of the City Council to order. Could you please bow your heads for invocation by Councilman Cumberland?
Our Heavenly Father, we're so blessed to be here today enjoying another great holiday season full of wonderful gifts. Each day we have is a gift from you. Each moment we have to spend with loved ones is a gift from you. Please help us to remain grateful and humble and to understand the purpose that you have for each of us. It's such an honor to serve you and to serve the residents of Diamond Head. Please grant us wisdom as we make decisions that affect our community. Lord, be with those who are dealing with illness. Be with those who have been impacted by senseless tragedies. Touch their hearts and touch the emptiness that they're feeling inside. Ease their pain, and most of all, give them hope. Show them that even in the darkest moments, the greatest gift we have is the power of hope. We ask all this in your name, Lord. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk?
Mayor DeBrio.
Here.
Councilmember Finley.
Here.
Councilmember Lisi.
Here.
Councilmember Cumberland.
Here.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
And Councilmember Marr.
Here.
I am going to move to adjust the agenda to add under the consent agenda items 17 and 18. Item 17 will be 2023-099. A motion to approve change order number 1 for 60 days additional and to the contract with Huey P. Stockstill LLC for the roadway improvements Phase 4 with no change in the contract price. And number 18, 2023-100, a motion to approve an amendment to the agreement with Tyler Technologies to renew for 1 year commencing January 1, 2023, with automatic renewal for 1 year at the current rate renewal of $41,020.
So moved.
Could I get a second to move as amended?
Second.
Okay. Second made by Councilman Clark. All in favor? Aye. The next regularly scheduled meeting of the City Council will be held on January 3rd at 6 p.m. in City Council chambers located at City Hall. City Hall will be closed December 23rd, 2022, and Monday, December 26th for Christmas holidays, and on Monday, January 2nd, 2023, for New Year's. And now we have a proclamation honoring our fallen officers with the City of Bay St. Louis. Proclamation memorializing Bay St. Louis's fallen officers, Sergeant Stephen Robin and Police Officer Braden Estroff. Whereas Sergeant Stephen Robin and Officer Braden Estroff were officers of the Bay St. Louis Police Department serving the city of Bay St. Louis, Mississippi. And whereas Sergeant Stephen Robin was a 12-year veteran of law enforcement who began his career in 2010 serving with Hancock County Sheriff's Department and the Waveland Police Department before joining the Bay St. Louis Police Department in 2019. Stephen embraced his role, mentoring others, and provided others with support and encouragement needed to do their jobs. And whereas Brandon Estroff, following in his father's footsteps, joined the Bay St. Louis Police Department in 2021. He was an exceptional cadet and had a bright future in law enforcement. Braden was polite and professional, and he worked hard to do his best each day serving his community. Whereas on December 14, 2022, Sergeant Stephen Robin and Officer Braden Estroff selflessly gave their lives in the service for their community. and I deeply apologize. Whereas on December 14, 2022, a candlelight vigil was held inside Bayhi's Tiger Stadium for fallen officers, Sergeant Stephen Robin and Officer Braden Ostroff, with hundreds in attendance. Stories were shared about the lives of the fallen officers, and community support was shown to the grieving families of the fallen officers, their fellow police officers, and the Bay St. Louis community. And whereas on December 21st, 2022 at 12 p.m., services will be held for Sergeant Stephen Robin and Officer Braden Ostroff at the Bay St. Louis Community Center located at 301 Blaze Avenue, Bay St. Louis, Mississippi. The fallen officers will be escorted by a law enforcement procession to the Garden of Memory in Bay St. Louis. And now, therefore, I, Nancy D'Aprio, Mayor of the City of Diamond Head, along with the council, do hereby honor the service and sacrifice of Sergeant Stephen Robin and Officer Braden Ostroff, who died in the line of duty. In witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of Diamond Head, Mississippi, to be affixed this, the 20th day of December, 2022. And both of these proclamations will be given to the families of the officers. Next, we have the presentation of the steering committee. Do you all need another few minutes? I know you've been working on it 15. No, you're not, it's not going to happen. Okay, so we have a presentation tonight with the Diamond Head Steering Committee, and so we did have a beautiful PowerPoint to do, but it's not going to cooperate tonight, so we're going to have to just say the PowerPoint and hope you all are going to read a lot, understand what we're doing here. Or else we could all gather around a laptop and view it. This doesn't. It is? Hello? Ooh, it feels strange over here. Hello, council. Thanks for having us tonight. So I am here tonight with the Diamond Head Senior Steering Committee. So I'm going to ask them to stand so they can be recognized. Thank you all. From March of 2022 to present, the Diamond Head Steering Committee has met nearly every Wednesday from 12 to 1 in the activity room to identify the needs of seniors living in Diamond Head. We've held 3 senior events, health resource fair, info session, and a pancake breakfast, and canceled 2 due to COVID. Everyone is welcome to participate, and we welcome everyone in Diamond Head. Everybody come out Wednesdays 12 to noon. Anybody that wants to help, please come help. The mission of the Diamond Head Senior Village is to enable senior residents in Diamond Head to age in place as well as possible for as long as possible with respect, joy, and dignity. With over 30% of the population over 60 years of age, which that used to seem old to me a few years ago, now it seems quite young, the need is here. Diamond Head demographics show we have 9,529 residents here living in Diamond Head. Persons 65 years and older, 2,668. So assuming adding the 60 to 65, we're well over 3,000 residents in that age group. Females, 51.2%, and veterans living here in Diamond Head, 924. Some stats about seniors. In the United States, roughly 1 in 3 people over the age of 65 live alone. And half of those older than 85 do live alone. At this point, I'm going to turn over to Dr. Gerald Jackson, which is going to talk to you about the model that we're using for the Diamond Head Senior Village.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Gerald Jackson. I've been a Diamond Head, well, not resident, but an owner for over 25 years. And basically, other thing is I'm a retired physician, internal medicine, geriatric physician. Reason I'm making this note is that much of my practice had to do with geriatrics, with nursing home patients and such. Had a couple hundred at one time. And one of the things that I saw was these people really didn't need to be in a nursing home necessarily if they had support services and such. Sometimes it was through a death in the family or other things, but there just ought to be a better mousetrap, so to speak. And finally, one did come along. In terms of before I get there, I want to say that in terms of actually the Diamond Head Senior Village, this is the first effort in Mississippi. Alabama has two, one in Huntsville, Alabama, one in Auburn, Alabama. Louisiana has one that's getting started in River Ridge. Arkansas has 9, Tennessee has 3. So that across the country, there's about 400 of these across the country. The village-to-village concept was something that actually began back in 2003 in Boston, Beacon Hill. Small group of folks like we have around here was just, again, wanting to stay home, age in place, and this is a better way of doing it. So they basically got this started. And with that, this village-to-village, they have developed these resources which have helped communities on how to run programs for seniors at the local level. The village-to-village offered these resources to start a village here in Diamond Head. And as I mentioned, there are over 400 in the country at this point. The village-to-village movement, what it does, it basically supports the lifestyle needs of the residents so that they have the choice to age in place. It's community-based, nonprofit, it's a grassroots organization, and it's formed by a team of caring neighbors who want to enable older adults to age in place with ease and quality of life. Each village or center responds differently depending on the needs and interests, and the next presentation will show that, but some of the things that we addressed, several here. I'll just try to read them off, not too quickly, but transportation, nutrition, health, wellness programs, technology support, home repairs, social activities, educational activities, opportunities for social contact and meaningful interaction, improving personal neighborhood security, assisting with the chores of daily living, and well-being checks. Basically, myself, after 54 years, I finally decided to quit medicine and retired. And with that, this is one of the things I'm devoting my efforts to. But what I'd like to do now is turn the program over to Dr. Mary Coyne, who will give some specifics of data as it relates to Diamond Head.
And thank you to my colleagues here. I'm speaking on their behalf. There's nobody in this room who isn't getting older. And so the village-to-village concept helps to provide some resources to help identify what the needs are in a particular community. And so based on that, our team developed a survey, and we've administered it to almost 90 residents in Diamond Head at our various events or places where we talk about, what do seniors in Diamond Head need. And we asked the question, people 60 and above to tell us about services they think they need now and then services they may need in the future. And we asked it according to the list that Gerald just mentioned. And the relief is that the needs for aggressive support to age in place, for example, for transportation, meals, well-being calls, respite relief for caregivers who are taking care of their family member who may have Alzheimer's disease, and they're taking care of them at home, yard work, minor repairs, or referral list, is most of the people said, we've got it covered now, but we're really worried about how long we can do that and age in place before we have to go someplace else, and possibly leave Diamond Head. 85% of the respondents said, I'm going to need help with transportation in the future. I may need meals. I may need somebody to check on me because I'm home alone. My husband has Alzheimer's. 83 people said, we've got some memory. We are concerned that we will need respite care for family members with dementia. 78 people said, in the future, I'm going to need help getting my yard done. Does this mean that the village is going to do this? No, but maybe we'll get Boy Scouts. What we want to do is organize and help coordinate. We've in Diamond Head for different groups to provide minor assistance to people so they can age at home. The one thing that we could respond to now is there's an overwhelming need for a referral list of trustworthy home maintenance. That was a concern people expressed because they said, if it's after a storm, that we get a lot of people in that will repair things for thousands of dollars more than need be. So, and older people get ripped off. So a referral list for home maintenance would be, people who can repair would be nice. We also asked people, the 90 folks, what are you interested in program-wise? So people said arts and music, education programs, exercise, field trips, social gatherings, and most of all, they wanted a place to gather, a center to gather here in Diamond Head. And so that's why my colleagues, that's what we've been working on. We've also toured other senior centers, LaBoy, Picayune, and Randolph, which is on hold due to COVID, to see how they operate and what maybe our center would provide. They receive funding from the Area Agency on Aging, SMPDD. They also receive funding, including transportation from their cities or their counties. They receive external funding from sponsors such as Humana and local hospitals. And at these 3 centers, they provide nutrition, transportation, arts, and recreation. Right now, we don't think that folks need, based on what people express, we don't think we need to provide nutrition programs. We might provide refreshments, but not a meal program. We're not quite ready to apply for a nutrition grant, or what we want to do is pilot test a center to see if it's feasible here in Diamond, if people respond. Our action steps is that we formed a senior center steering committee last March, and every week that seems to get, that group seems to get bigger. We've joined the Village to Village Network to access their resources so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We've are in the process of forming a nonprofit, Diamond Head Senior Center, Inc. We continue to listen to the needs and concerns from older adults living in Diamond Head, and we are gathering data, continuing to gather data about the needs and interests of Diamond Head residents age 60 plus. You may say, why 60? And that is because all the grants, they don't start at 65, they start at 60 for funding from the Area Agency on Aging. I'm going to turn the program back over to our mayor, who will talk about our action steps, unless you have any questions right now. Okay.
Mary, I'm Nancy, the senior steering committee. Thank you. That was excellent. Thank you. So now we're going to talk about Diamond Head, the Senior Village Pilot Program. So what is this? As Mary just discussed, we need data to be able to apply for grants. So having the data comes from knowing the numbers, knowing the needs, knowing what specifically happens in Diamond Head. So the pilot program is a 6-month pilot to discover the needs, try things out, and I'm going to tell you all about it. I wish I could show you the slides because it's really phenomenal, but just envision. Y'all should be looking at my laptop, but the duration is between January and June 2023. The location is the activity room at City Hall, and the days are Tuesdays and Thursdays, 10 to noon. So you see the motion on the agenda, we have to redo it because it's just 2 hours a day, 2 days a week. Residents 60 years young and older. Examples of some of the programs: exercise, tech time, education, art, music, healthy grieving, saving energy, how to obtain needed resources. Our goal is not to compete with existing activities offered by other groups like the library or the POA, but to make sure participants know about those groups and what they offer, and that they are listed on our calendar also. So collectively, and when you think about the village to village, you got to think about the village to village concept is the hub of a wheel with all the spokes. And everybody in Diamond Head is a spoke, and there is even some spokes along the coast that we're reaching out to assist with this. It is a large group. No one entity can do this. It is a big group of folks together. Who will help us with this program? We're going to engage partners and sponsors from our local community to offer programs or donate to support program offerings so there is no fee to the participants of the seniors living in Diamond Head. We're going to engage volunteers from Diamond Head to help these participants. So far, we have over 25 residents in Diamond Head that have volunteered, and that's not counting this fabulous group that does grow every week. Data to be collected. So what are we doing at the pilot program? Every event, we will have sheets with the type of event we hosted, the number of participants, and if it was a continued interest in the type of event. We will offer event surveys for the participants to evaluate the project. Community needs surveys. We have 90 completed to date. These surveys will be offered at every event, and at anything that we can do to hand them out, we're going to put them around Diamond Head so we can collect as much data as we can on the needs of seniors. Sponsors and vetting questionnaire. Any sponsor that helps with an event will be given a questionnaire to fill out so that we can get their feedback on what we can do better and how they can assist us better. Volunteer surveys. Every member sitting here and the 25 that we have registered to help us will also fill out surveys on how we can do better. The sponsor vetting questionnaire, these are some of the things, and we have been working with the city attorneys, is what is the amount of your liability insurance coverage? What company is it with? Are you professionally licensed? What type of license? What is your geographic service area? Are you registered licensed business in the state of Mississippi and the city of Diamond Head? Are you bonded? What is the name of your bonding company? What is the amount of your bond? Do you perform criminal background checks on the individuals that works with you? And that was just our vendor vetting questionnaire. For the pilot program, we have many more forms that will be filled out, and we probably have 40 more before we start the senior center. But I'm not going to tell you 40 tonight. We have several right now that will be filled out with people participating in the program. For vendors, they will have an authorization of release for a background check. They will have vendor vetting policies that they have to abide by. They will complete the vendor vetting questionnaire that I just read off to you all, and they also will do vendor surveys. The volunteers will have to sign an authorization for release for a background check. They will have to fill out a volunteer application and a release form. They will have to fill out volunteer policies, a volunteer survey, and also a volunteer confidentiality policy and go through training. Members need to fill out a needs survey, a member release and information form, And also, they will be filling out the needs list that we spoke about earlier. Guest speakers and instructors are not vendors. But if they represent a company or an organization, they will need to put a disclaimer statement on their written materials and presentation that clearly states what they're presenting is of their opinion, not of the City of Diamond Head nor the Diamond Head Village. The Diamond Head Senior Village, Inc. We're now the Diamond Head Village, Inc., which sounds so, and we got an EIN number, so we're very excited today. It was a big day. We have started registering with the Secretary of State, and we have reserved our name, so nobody go try to get Diamond Head Village, Senior Village, because we have it. The bylaws have been written. The Articles of Incorporation have been written. We are working on selecting Board of Directors. We have selected a president, and that is Dr. Gerald Jackson, and he is our representative for anything to do with the state and the federal government. He is our contact. We have an EIN number. We are registering with the Mississippi State Tax Commission, and we will become a tax-exempt 501c3, and we will be filling out a 1023-EZ form. Our calendar, which we were so excited to show y'all, and you can't read this because it's like teeny. But you can see we already have a lot of the dates filled in. So we have events such as, now the mayor's got to read this tiny writing, but I know the things that we're doing. On January 10th, we're having a senior fair with SMPDD coming. She already has 10 vendors. We hope to get up to 30. The following Thursday, we will be having a meeting, a kickoff to let the residents, the seniors, know what we're doing with the pilot program. We are excited to have a Diamond Head resident come on the 17th to tell the story of Mr. Bingle and the creator. It's his daughter. So that is going to be exciting. We have several events planned, and most are for holidays. We're going to have a Valentine's brunch, a St. Patrick's Day brunch, an Easter brunch, and a Memorial Day brunch. We've had a generous family, instead of giving Christmas gifts to each other, have donated money for us to now have 2 5-week sessions that allows 15 residents to attend the Diamond Head School of Fine Arts for the Balancing Act class. So that'll be 15 residents for 5 weeks every Tuesday, and then we'll have an additional 15 that will do it the next 5 weeks. And this shows you the type of residents that are vested in the senior center, willing to pay that. And we have our Diamond Head Fine Arts School director here, Miss Sarah Shelton, and her team will be helping us with the exercise classes that I try to avoid. But, okay, so now we can ask, that concludes our presentation. Did anybody else want to add anything?
Blown away by how ready y'all were for tonight, presenting it to us. Just a couple of questions that maybe you've answered some of them that as I was writing them down or something. Okay, are there any costs of being associated with the Village to Village program that y'all have out there?
There is a cost. Currently, it's $250 for us to be able to join. Last year and this year, Dr. Gerald Jackson has funded the cost. It's $250 to be a member a year.
Just a one-time thing, that's all you have?
And that's 9 users.
And it's 9 additional users that, for his membership, 9 other people on the committee can have access to the resources.
Right.
And it's phenomenal, phenomenal.
And I know y'all said something about insurances. Is that y'all have to have insurance on the individual or on the place your meeting, your activity center? What kind of who's
Now, we will ask for liability insurance from every vendor and from instructors. This is a given. They're going to have their insurance, and it's going to have to be presented to us before. Now, the senior center will, once we get incorporated and finish our paperwork, we will have to pick up liability insurance. And for us using the activity room, I believe there is a $500 cost for us to be able to use the activity room.
Okay. And
The additional insurance, is that what we're quoted? But I mean, that's, okay.
okay, and will there be a payroll of staff? I mean,
No.
It's all
So we
volunteer,
did
like-
submit with our paperwork to the federal government this year. There will be no paid employees. We're all working on the goodness of our heart.
There a local Hancock County senior program already that seemed like I used to be help my dad with a lot of that stuff going on.
Only if you live in Bay St. Louis and Waveland. So Bay St. Louis and Waveland have one collectively together. North of I-10, there isn't one. So we would like to branch out with the Board of Supervisors and help all the seniors north of I-10. It's very difficult to drive at night when you're a senior. You know, so I hear. So, and it's getting that way. So, you know, driving to and from for events is more difficult. To have it where residents don't leave Diamond Head, if they can't drive well, they can get on a golf cart, or we can go pick them up and have them. This is a game changer for seniors living in Diamond Head.
And you'd already answered how many the seniors were here in the Diamond Head area. And
There's over
that's a large amount. I mean, I
3,000.
see all day long, you know, it just,
Mm-hmm.
I know there's a lot of them here. Now, is age 60 the only really prerequisite or requirement to be able to join? the
That
group?
is it. There's nothing to do, we don't ask anything about financial information or anything. You're over 60, come have some fun. It's all about socializing, getting out, learning about the resources in our community. I mean, I have learned so much just sitting on this committee. Oh, yeah, ages.
I'm almost
We need
56.
to know that they're 60 and that's it, you know, 60 and older.
Yeah.
How often will you update the council with the results of the test pilot?
We could do it, you know, either probably once a month. It'd be too much, but maybe do it midway. We'll come back and hopefully the projectors will work and we'll have photos and we can show you how everything's looking. And so we can do it in 3 months. Are y'all excited? Y'all want to help? Any more data than we had
I
described?
don't know what else y'all could possibly collect. Looks like y'all are doing a lot already. Right off the bat, I can't think of anything.
If you think of something, shoot us an email. We're all about getting the data we need, and we may be missing this. I mean, we're all out here on new territory. We're very blessed that Dr. Jackson found the village-to-village concept because a lot of the work has already been done for us. Right. You can find everything that you need for the senior center, any form, and literally we have 40 more before we open. Literally we do, and we gave her, I don't know how many today, so it's a lot of paperwork, it's a lot of work, but you know what? At the end of the day, it's going to be a great opportunity and a lot of fun for the volunteers as well as the seniors.
And we'll have all that paperwork done, or council will be happy with it before our first event on January the 10th. We think that's doable.
So if I can address that, and if I could just go back to Councilmember Marr briefly when you asked, one of the things that when John and I met with the steering committee last week, was it last week?
It was.
2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago.
Okay, it's all a blur. When we met, one of the things that we discussed was that it would be a good idea for them to, and they understand that we will have to do, the city, because they're using the facility room, like an audit, basically, where we confirm that they are getting the proper paperwork to show that the insurance is in place for anyone that comes in or any of the events, that they have the proper licenses. And we haven't hammered out exactly how often we're going to do that quote-unquote audit, but that is the plan that we have.
Is it our problem or is it your problem?
Well, we will be doing the check, but you will be responsible to make sure you have it all in place for us. Yes.
We're
Yes.
just happy to get an EIN number. We feel
Yes.
really big today. This is a big step, and we started our paperwork with the Secretary of State, so things are moving.
And
Go ahead.
before I forget, Councilmember Finley, to your question, today I was speaking with SMPDD with regard to making sure that they understand that this is not a City of Diamond Head event, but rather related to this nonprofit, and everyone knows what their job is and what needs to be done so that we can move forward on January 10th. And the hope is that we will be able to further address that at the council meeting on, is it January 3rd?
January 3rd.
Yes.
That's
Look,
it.
I'm all for it. I don't know how your PowerPoint, I'm sure, was great, but
It was-
succinct and to the point, and looks like you got all the bases covered.
Yeah.
If council's happy, I'm
Well,
thrilled about it.
thank you.
Me too. I just have one concern is what happens if there is somebody that has dementia or something where they're really not in their own sane sanity at the time? Are you going to require that there'll be some sort of aid with them or something so that while you're in the midst of activities, they just don't walk out on you?
Right, because this isn't a medical daycare facility. This is not, and that's a totally different option, you know. And we are trying, you know, I'm speaking to a few hospitals around here about a medical daycare facility for seniors, which is a totally different thing, and that is, you know, someone with dementia, because there's a lot of couples that way, and you want to be able to go to the grocery store, but you can't leave your partner at home, you know, and I dealt with this personally for 4 years with my mother. So that type facility has to be at a different level than we are. That's not where we are. A social, let's get out, let's learn where you can find the needs, let's learn where you can find that person to come to your home and sit with your partner while you go to the grocery store, so you're not scared when you come back they're gone or have hurt themselves. We're about getting all the little spokes on the wheel collectively together so we have that answer. And that you have those answers. So when a resident comes to you and says, what can I do about this or that? You know where to go. We all know where to go because it takes a village. That was so cliche, but it
I
just
love it.
fit. Thank
Very
you.
good.
Thank you, Councilman Finley.
But, you know, that's a really good point. We're not an adult daycare center. We are a gathering, like, I think if I were to describe it in a word, it would be a gathering place. But will some, it's just like any event that Diamond has, somebody could have a heart attack. Somebody could be, what we're going to do with the volunteers, we will have a training program, which will develop across the pilot program. But one of the things, and I was working on my handbook last night, is like, what are the red flags? Like, and who do you contact? Members, people who come to gather, will have to complete a member form, application form. But they'll have an emergency contact. If somebody has a heart attack, we're gonna do just those many.
And we hope that doesn't happen.
We'll call 911, just like any other event. But if it's a cognitive issue, you know, people
It-
aren't going to come and drop somebody off who really can't participate in the event. It's a gathering.
And they have to be able to sign in. You know, we have to have their name and contact. On the member form, it does have a place for allergies, whether it be pet or medical. You know, so we know their medical background and we've got their physician's name. They have to fill this out before they become a member at no cost. All right, well, can we give another round of applause because they have worked so hard. And thank you all. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
So we have your support. Yeah,
We had no, we just listened to the president.
you need a vote of support?
Well, we can, I'm assuming you all are ready to leave. Can I move to add a motion real quick and then we can, because they probably need to leave. It is dark. Kenny got that? Okay.
Write this down and then you can call
Yes.
901.
He's doing a presentation?
Well, he was supposed to do it via Zoom, but we can't.
Thank you all very much.
Oh, wait, we're doing a motion. Don't leave, we're doing something. Okay, so I am gonna move to add a motion, and we're out of order here, but that's okay.
You've got the gavel, so it's
Ooh.
okay.
Finally, there's something this means. Okay. So I am going, and we're just gonna let that motion Can we let the motion die that's tabled? Or
Just
we have to?
Just make a motion to amend it, or?
Okay. I move to remove from the table 2023-060, motion for steering committee to utilize the chapel area in City Hall for a pilot Diamond Head Senior Center on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I move to remove it from the table. Can I,
I'm sorry.
can I get a second? Second by Councilwoman Lisi. All in favor?
Aye.
I move to amend motion 2023-060, a motion for Diamond Head Senior Steering Committee to utilize the activity room on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 to noon for the months of January through June. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Finley. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Senior Committee. Y'all are free to go home.
Great job.
I had 10 questions, I got 20 answers, I like that. I like to have 20 questions and get one answer.
Yeah, amend and approve. I'm sorry.
Bob Barber with Orion Planning, about the new downtown streets.
Did you have the cross sections for the PowerPoint?
Hey, John.
Hey, Bob, it's Nancy. How are you?
Hey, Mayor. I'm doing well, and you?
And you are live. You are live and being videotaped. Okay.
Well, Merry Christmas to you.
And Merry Christmas to you. So you are going to do a update on you're part of this. He's part of. Okay. This is so wonderful.
Mayor, may I add in Bert Kirkendall to the call?
Yes, you may. Thank you.
Okay. Give me one moment.
Now I can scratch this off my list.
Mayor, we're here.
Thank you.
Bob Barber and Bert Kirkendall.
Okay. Did you all get the two names that are online? Thank you. Can you hear as well, Bob?
I can hear you excellently, yes.
Thank you. And we can hear you as well.
Right. Mayor, I obviously can't see you, so just cue me when
Okay. So,
when we need to talk.
and we're very excited to see this. So at the last city council meeting, we discussed the East Aloha improvements and the width of the current improvements and the curbing. And we asked to see what we're proposing for the new business area, the new, the additional 3,200 lineal feet of roadway, what the section look like. And I see you have a lot of paperwork here, so we're ready to start when you're ready.
Excellent. Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry I can't see you via Zoom, but Merry Christmas all. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to it. Ben briefed us a little bit about the discussion, and what we were going to provide from our standpoint was sort of the background of how we ended up with the particular, or ended up in the direction of the particular road designs that you have under consideration. And my understanding is you have a printout of our 6 or 8 slides, and I'll just run through those very, very briefly. ours, is oriented not to the specific design of the roadway, but just to the background. I guess it's perhaps a refresher or a reminder of, the excellent work that Diamond Head did in its planning process, a year and a half back or 2 years back. The first slide you should see is just the title page of Envision Diamond Head. There's a few photographs there of some people engaged in the process. And one of the excellent things about Envision Diamond Head was community participation in the midst of the pandemic. It was remarkable to us. It was an excellent planning experience. And we had tremendous inputs from the city and the participants in the process. On the right-hand side of that slide is the set of planning principles that came out, and you'll see it came out of the process, and you'll see the ones surrounded in blue boxes are principles that address the desire that we uncovered, and you're probably already well aware of it, but we discovered it and documented it for a walkable downtown, attractive, and distinctive kind of downtown for Diamond Head. And that's what those items are addressing there: mixed use and walkable, well-connected, high-quality design from both the public infrastructure point of view as well as the private side of the right-of-way where the buildings are. All of that. So that underlies the ideas that follow. And I don't know how your slide printed out. My slide, my PowerPoint was interactive, so it had some slides fading in. But you'll see the next page, it says commercial centers. So in the planning process, we identified types of places in Diamond Head and their ideal future conditions, or the ideal manner in which they would be developed over time. The first one you'll see there is the Aloha District. That's over on East Aloha, which you have now constructed and according to plan, and we envision that as kind of a core opportunity for walkable downtown development. You'll see the buildings modeled over on the right, pulled up close to the street, and a conception of how that would work. Congratulations to the city on getting that street built. It is a fundamental piece in producing that downtown configuration over time. Excuse me, and we're confident that is a very, very reasonable expectation for Diamond Head over time, and it'll take time. But to lay the groundwork in the infrastructure is a real achievement, and we think that form will be forthcoming. As you go to the next slide, that's just that was in the plan. That was the overall original concept, that you would have a narrower street, that the buildings would be pulled up close to the street. We'd have plenty of infrastructure for pedestrians, and then you'd allow for positions for on-street parking, as well as bulb outs to accommodate street trees, so you could, and landscaping, so you could begin to get a really nicely landscaped environment in that area. And then the next page you should see labeled Town Center Mixed Use. This now moves over to the west side of Gex. And what's under discussion now, it was envisioned, if you'll recall, the Linfield Hunter Group created a site plan, and then we generated a town center mixed use district to create a traditional form of a downtown. And that's just a description of it, and then you're probably looking at it with the map blotting out some of the text, but that's the area of it in light pink. The next page associated with that district are the street types, and there are alternative configurations there for various kinds of streets that fit within that town center mixed use district. and that's in the code that's been adopted. It hadn't been applied to the ground on the map, but at least in text format, this is a portion of the town center mixed-use form-based district intended to achieve that kind of traditional downtown. The next page, in just a few more minutes, won't take much longer. The next page is just an example you have on the coast. This is Government Street over in Ocean Springs. And if you'll look sort of to the right of that slide, you'll see a little yellow line. That little yellow line demonstrates 20 feet of pavement width there. And then you'll see the cars on either side of it, which provide the on-street parking. And as you know, you probably know, the Government Street was actually more lanes, travel lanes than that, and they retrofitted that street. I'm not sure quite how many years ago, maybe 12 years ago. They inserted the bulb outs to achieve some of the things that are in the design you have over at East Aloha. Just for reference and context, as a local example of what you're working with. And Bert, you're not looking at the, I think you have an email of the slides there. We're on you've got 4 slides to follow up on that.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. Hi, Mayor and Council. Thanks for letting us tie in here. Yeah, I just wanted to present some of the engineering aspects of the design. So I'm showing examples from standards that are urban street standards as opposed to more of your state DOT rural highway standards. So what we rely on as engineers in urban areas are the Maxim street design guidelines and also the ITE CMU Walkable Urban Thoroughfares Manual. So that's those slides that you're looking at. The chart is showing there's a direct relationship between lane width and speed. And 10 feet, a 10-foot lane is really the standard optimal lane width for the purpose of slowing traffic down in walkable areas. You start getting to 11 and 12-foot lanes and cars speed up because basically people drive as fast as they feel comfortable driving. And like that photo in Ocean Springs, when the lanes are 10 feet wide and there's on-street parking and bulb outs, there's friction there essentially that slows people down, visual friction. Now, sometimes we recommend 11-foot lanes if there's heavy transit traffic, a lot of big buses, or if there's a lot of freight traffic like big 18-wheelers on the thoroughfare. We did not anticipate that in this town center district. Really, the ideal development for the area was not in any type of big box stores that would need the larger 18-wheeler trucks, but box trucks, would be anticipated for a development like this. So really, 10 feet is ideal for this setting. And the goal really is to get the cars at that safe speed that makes this a really great pedestrian and safe experience. So just wanted to kind of give some of the engineering background on that.
And Bert, since you're not looking at the slides, let me prompt you on 2 more slides. You had a photograph of a street, a tree-lined street there. Did you want to comment on that one at all?
Yeah, that's the street, Washington in...
Oh, that's Washington in
Washington and Ocean Springs.
Yeah. And then the last slide you had was a chart out of the ITE manual.
Yeah, so what that chart is, street design really in urban settings is based on context and street type. So the context of this area recommended, there's footnotes, and with the footnotes, the sections that takes you to, it basically goes through kind of what I just explained, that 10 feet is ideal, 11 feet can be needed if there's heavy transit traffic or a lot of large truck traffic. But absent of that, really 10 feet is ideal to keep vehicles moving smoothly, but keep them at the posted speed limit or below.
So,
Mayor, the rest of those items there are more appropriate for Ben to address, because then it moves into the actual detailed design of what you're considering there.
okay.
But happy to answer any questions about that.
And you all did excellent work on preparing our comprehensive plan. I mean, we can't say enough good about the work you all did. That was fun times, everybody in the community getting together. The plans are exceptional. We have a vision and we know where we're headed. I think our concerns with the street section on East Aloha, well, I think we learned something there. Whenever we're doing, a road improvement, we're very excited to get it done, and we did it in phases. So it doesn't have any jewelry on it. It's out there with no jewelry, and it's all you see is curbs, and they glare at you. Big old 1.5-foot curb that just... So we're seeing a lot of concrete and hard surfaces. Had we had put phase 2 with phase 1, where we had the decorative lighting, the flags on the poles, the sidewalks, the plants, the greenery, that probably would have been a better solution. But we didn't, and we are where we are now. And I think the residents are having a difficult time with 10 feet to the face of the curb. Is that what East Aloha is, 10 to the face?
Good.
East Aloha is 11 to the face. Face to face is 11.
Face to face to the top of curb?
Face of the curb.
Okay, so then you pull it back a foot. The lane width's 10 feet, and people are scared to get close to the gutter line. Well, by the looks of the curb and gutter today, they're very friendly with the curb. So, I don't know. That's just I think we need to go 11 feet to the gutter line. That's just my personal thought, but I'll let anybody else chime in.
I think based on East Aloha, 11 feet would be the better solution than a 10-foot. Only because we have as your senior thing, we have an elderly population besides just having a regular downtown. And I think they're not used to being in an urban setting like we're trying to do in the town center. And they like to have some more breathing room while they're driving rather than that's probably why they choose a place like Diamond Head, is to not be in a city environment where they have to fight, to be in narrow spaces.
And if I could, I'd like to speak to Andrew Levins with Covington Civil Environmental, talk about how we implemented these plans from Orion into the Transformation District. Similar cross sections as what we've seen on East Aloha. But what we found when we were ensuring that we had viable truck routes was that the intersections were minimal as far as providing that turn radius. So we utilized rollover curbing in all of those intersections to accommodate that. And obviously we're going to be constructing this sidewalks, curbing, roadway, all during a single phase, so you won't have that just a whole lot of curb out there glaring at you. I didn't know on East Aloha, is it just the intersections and intersection radius that are seeing the wheel impacts, or is it all of the curbing even through the?
I just sat there one day trying to figure out why there were so many black tire marks on it, because I get the concept. I've been in this for 40 years. I totally understand the concept and where we're going, and I was very fortunate to meet Andrew Dewani after Katrina. That's one of my big topics I like to share, because the smart code was a big thing at one point. But I look at people, they're nervous getting next to this. They ride in the center of the road. They are in the center of the road, and if you go to pass somebody, they completely stop. And I sat there and watched it for a while. So that's what. So this is what we're asking you to try to help us with. People have a difficult time passing another car in East Aloha. They feel it's too narrow. some of them stop completely and let you pass.
Can I ask,
Mhm.
and there's no parallel parking out there currently, and these are kind of the maneuvers you're seeing?
Oh, I've seen
I
one.
mean, there's no cars parked there.
I saw one truck with a grass trailer behind it, and he took up all three of them. And that's the only time I've ever seen anybody utilize it. But we don't have businesses there yet.
Right.
You know, it'll change when Taco Bell opens in January, I feel. But I'm gonna let somebody else talk because
Yeah.
I've been, Councilman
I
Clark?
probably see the road more than just about anybody.
Yes, he probably does.
You know, working right there at Rouse's.
Mhm.
Every once in a while, I get somebody come in, why the road's so narrow, why the road's so narrow? And I just respond, well, I said, well, you know, we're just trying to slow people down a little bit. And I see that and I get that and I'm glad we're doing that. But, you know, so far I haven't heard of any wrecks yet, you know. I haven't even witnessed any near accidents or anything happen on it. You know, every once in a while I'll just kind of pull into one of the parking spaces on the side just to get in there and see how it is. The only problem I have with those parking spaces, it just seems like they're tight. You know what I'm saying? I mean, instead of having three of them, maybe we could have had a two-car spot. You know, and I drive barely a mid-sized truck, so I should have no problem getting in that. That would be the only thing I have as far as with the parking spaces on the edges. But once again, I haven't one person a day or every few days where somebody will come up to me and tell me the streets are too small. So, you know, I think it's just something that possibly, you know, everybody's just kind of getting used to. And I think once we start going into the second phase, I think it's just going to be easier to adjust. Right now, like you said, we're all just seeing curb. You know, so put some appeal up there and, you know, let people slow down a little bit. And, you know, I don't know why people pass anybody on that road anyway.
Are they?
Should be nobody passing anybody.
Are they driving that intended speed limit?
Oh, I don't mean passing like get out
Well,
my
I'm
way.
just saying if.
You're talking about
I'm just talking two side by side. They're nervous
Well, it's
to do
intended
that.
to slow you down.
Oh, they slow
right?
down. They
As
stop.
we
They
saw,
stop
and
dead.
if it's not slow, you know, slowing them down, and then that's kind of the
And I
going
think-
against the design intent.
What Councilman Clark's talking about, the parallel parking, if you have three in there and they're each, and I'm not sure if they're 19 feet, what specifically was done on East Aloha, but it's the length of the car, so you can't back up or maneuver. If we had some cross-hatching between the last parking space and the curbing, you'd be able to have movement there. Right now, you're trapped. If three are in a row, you're gonna have to wait for somebody to leave. Or else have a car that can do it by
Ben,
itself.
East Aloha is 11 feet on each side, correct?
East Aloha is 10-foot wide lane with a 1-foot gutter.
With a 1-foot
So it's
gutter.
11 from the face of the curb to the center line. So it's a 1-foot gutter, 10-foot lane, 10-foot lane, 1-foot gutter for 22 total.
I got you. So when you're talking about 10 foot, you're gonna also have a 1-foot gutter in the new?
The way the code was written for the other side was a 20-foot face to face. So it'll be 9 plus.
Oh, yeah, no.
4 foot for the
See, I think East Aloha should be as narrow as we get and not go narrower for anything further. That's just my opinion.
And I think it should be 10 feet to the face of the gutter, but that's just me. But,
That's what to the start of the gutter.
oh, yeah, to the gutter, I think it should be centered on the road 10 feet, edge of asphalt, 1.5 curb, which makes it 11.5 from center to back of curb, but that's just my thoughts. Any thoughts to the right? Councilman Cumberland?
Yeah, if we made those types of changes, Ben, what kind of cost difference is it? Any idea?
I'm gonna have to go back and look at that, I mean, cause that moves all our drainage inlets back, I mean, that, we're gonna, you know, you can speak to this, but we'll have to reproduce every sheet. I mean, it's not just like changing the cross section.
And
So
that's
how
just-
much do
that's
you
just
have
a-
done?
We're ready to go to bid as soon as we get approval from, you know, we're submitting to Diamond Head Water and Sewer the next week, and we've got phase 1 plans stamped. Roadway plans are stamped.
And Ben,
Water
maybe
and sewer's not.
maybe you could tell them what phase 1 exactly is so that they
Yeah.
get an idea what you're.
It's the JEX extension to Noma Drive, leisure time connection, and a short leg south at the bowling alley.
But you guys are just talking about engineering costs, the changes. I mean, we'd have to start over there, but
I mean, construction
But
costs,
with
I mean,
construction
what we'd
costs.
likely have to do is reduce sidewalk if we're gonna widen road. So probably there's not big difference in
Okay.
construction costs. It's just a time component at this point.
You'd have to redesign.
How long would
Would
that
there be
take?
any right-of-way easements needed? Any additional right-of-way?
My understanding is we were kind of handcuffed with the right-of-way we have, so no
So
additional
that's-
right-of-way. We gotta find room.
That's why you'd reduce the width of the
right,
sidewalk.
right.
He's reducing the width of the sidewalk to fit it between the current right-of-way that he has. So what they do is, they have to cut cross-sections of the road, and they have their template made, and they've already done it. I feel your pain, because I have been there. It's so much funner on this side.
Now, we have a lag, obviously, we're still kind of going through the permitting, and it's really specifically for the utilities, but we're trying to get a complete set of what we're doing to be able to demonstrate to the water and sewer district the entire. But I think that we could proceed with that, and while we're going through and getting all those regulatory permits, once we're able to get the will serve from the district.
Oh, okay.
And we could address any kind of changes. So we could probably still make it happen within time, but obviously it's more time to spend.
You still have to go to DEQ in the health department?
We need a will
Okay, because you
serve.
have the will serve. Oh, so you're a ways out on getting the permitting before you can advertise. Okay.
Are we putting in the water and sewer? I mean, are we making some changes to that?
So
down those
we
roads?
are, we're not, if you wanna look at your map, sorry, Andrew, jump down. We're just doing utility adjustments along the existing Park 10. We are adding water and sewer from essentially the wastewater treatment plant to Noma Circle. We'll be putting in water and sewer there. We're adding water and sewer on the leisure time extension. So that's what triggers the will serve from the district and then health department and DEQ approval. One option is to bid that alternately, right? We could break it up and bid one piece or two pieces, or we could go out to bid and with the assumption we'll have those approvals, before we start construction. But to Andrew's point, to go back, we need to go back and look at if the change is made to, for instance, the TC60 is what we're doing. And it's very tough to see, but the TC60 correlates to our drawing number 8. Sheet 8 on ours is essentially TC60, Town Center 60. So that's about the available right-of-way we have for Park 10 Lane. And that's going from property line to property line. So we would have to look at reducing tree wells or removal of tree wells or reduction of sidewalks. We could go to a 9-foot and a 5-foot sidewalk, and that would get us back to what you see right now at East Aloha. But that would not be in compliance with what you've adopted on your TC60. So I'm assuming a variance would have to be done if that's the direction you want to go. I'm not advocating for it. I'm just wanting to give you your options.
Yeah.
And we can go back and look at the level of effort, what it would take to add that in. Because Mayor, I know every drawing is changed at that point.
No, and I feel what you're saying, because I know it is. Every cross-section will have to be recut, and your template will have to be redone, but we're taking another foot off, and people can't do what we have now. So you hear what we're trying to say?
Will there be parallel parking on the street?
There is parallel parking on Park 10, yes. Now, we could, it's more industrial on the northern side of Park 10. We could remove a parking lane. I mean, we could get creative there.
You could get creative with your striping. And then I actually worked on Government Street in the late 90s, so I'm very proud of how it started. We could, later on, if we see we could restripe it to fit the needs. That's another option.
And again, Bert and Bob, do you all have any thoughts?
Bob, do y'all have any thoughts?
I'm monitoring the discussion. I'm going to defer to Bert on
Okay.
this aspect of the actual width.
Yeah, I'm pulling up that section. now it's a 10-foot drive lane, 8-foot parking, 3.5-foot tree well, 10-foot side path, essentially on the north side, 6 feet on the south side. I wouldn't, if you add a foot or 2 feet to the roadway, a foot on each side, I wouldn't recommend reducing the tree well width just because you need 3.5 is already pretty narrow to be able to grow a tree. Hopefully 3 is super narrow. I would be more inclined to take out a foot of sidewalk on each side. And then what you can do is when the development happens, you could get them to basically add sidewalk either on their property or on easement, or it could even be patio seating area that would be adjacent to the sidewalk. I think that would be an easier area to adapt later on than something like parking lanes.
I like that. Mm-hmm.
So,
So that would be a 5-foot sidewalk on the south side and a 9-foot side path on the north side. But as development happens, you could require them to add, like on the south side, to add additional sidewalk width.
Or butt up with concrete for the patio, outdoor
Right, it could be
patio.
Right, it could be patio space. Ideally, they'd want to add about 4 to 5 feet of sidewalk just on their property that could serve as patio space.
It would be detrimental to move the center line, and I would never ask that of anybody, you all this far, because that is like your whole anchor. So
But
if you
we're
didn't
already a
move,
little off center already.
okay, but to move your center line on this whole entire project would be,
Oh,
I can't even comprehend such. So if you took either off either side,
Right, but we're still switching every drain, we're pushing every drainage inlet. We're pushing all the pipes. I mean, it's still a good amount of work. And Bob, that I hear, Bert, I'm sorry, I hear you. So would we then do, if we're looking at sheet 8, and we can work through this with you, not in the public meeting, but we add a foot of gutter, I would assume our face of gutter is, our parking lane would be 7 feet with the foot of gutter, which would give us an 11-foot travel lane.
That is a good option to go to 7-foot parking lanes, and I mean that. Honestly, 7 feet is not the default width. Some communities want 8, but what you could do if you feel like that's narrow, for the users, you could just increase the length of the spaces, which makes it easier, to pull in and out, and have that 7-foot width.
Well, let me stop.
That would make it a lot easier to change plans. It would just be changing striping instead of changing everything, the drainage and everything else.
Well, that really wouldn't fix our problem, and that's not the direction I was heading. I was assuming we still take out a foot on each side, right? And so we only get 2 feet back. So where we have parallel parking and no bulb outs, we're at 22 feet. And so making the parking 8 feet and that parking striping would include the foot of gutter, which would then give us 11-foot drive lanes. You see what I'm saying? So we still need that 2 feet. If in the scenario you're talking about, we don't take any out of our outside of a roadway pavement, we still stick with the existing, but at the bulb outs, we're still at a 10-foot lane, face of curb to face of curb.
Yeah,
So,
bulb outs. Well, yeah, I am proposing that you could just change the parking lot to 7 foot and then just adjust the bulb outs to 1 foot in from what they currently.
Move the bulb out face to the interior towards the right of way line.
We can do that.
Right, 1 foot. But then keep the curb line where it is everywhere else. Just utilize 7-foot parking lanes instead of 8 foot.
And that would give the foot without actually changing where you need to put the sewers and all like that.
Correct.
I could live with that.
So where we have dimensioned everything to the face of the curb, what it really sounds like is we need all of these road widths and parking widths to the edge of the gutter. If that makes sense.
That
to
pretty much,
simplify.
that's exactly what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Because see, now we're 11 foot from center of the road on East Aloha to the face of the curb. These are 9 feet, and we can't do 11 feet. We can't do 9 feet.
Well, if we compare it to East Aloha, we're 10 and 11.
10 and 11,
But
that's
what
right.
we're saying here is now the width of our parking is gonna go from 8 to 7, which gives us an 11-foot travel lane. And the 7 foot, parking will include the foot of gutter. And then at the bulb outs, we'll move those bulb outs in.
So they could pull over in the gutter to actually get over enough. And people just won't drive close to the gutter. It's just, so they're gonna park.
So it'll
You
be
know,
a-
and a normal parking spot's 9 feet wide. So,
When you're pulling in, but parallel's easier on a width.
Can I ask a question?
definitely.
Okay. Okay, on one of our drawings, what's the slanted parking called?
Golf cart.
Okay, well, there's golf cart, but then on the same sheet, there's regular, it looks like bigger for,
That's the water and sewer district's parking lot.
but it's the slanted. Okay, so it says, if I'm reading it right, 13.5 feet for that. Are we having parallel parking on both sides? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
What I'm getting at is like Jeff Davis in Long Beach has a section with just the slanted parking on one side. And you'd have more, you see where I'm going? You'd have more room.
That slanted would take up more width.
Well, it would, but if it were only on one side of the road, then
Yeah.
it would be less than 2 parallel.
That would give it-
That's what I'm wondering, because that's so much easier to pull in and out of than trying to parallel park in a shorter space. Just a thought, I mean, while we're,
No, we need to think. This
Good
is
thought.
good. We need to think.
and
As this is,
just parking on one side slanted.
I guess so you're talking about reducing the parking lane, and then everything stays the same, just your striping changes. Councilman,
Oh, I'm sorry. Were you talking to me?
I'm all of us, so that's,
Can I ask a question?
Sorry.
yeah,
So
I
if we're
think
gonna
that's
do
what.
parking on one side,
Uh-huh.
what's most logical, north side or south
I
side?
don't know.
This is for the new town center.
Yes.
It's all imaginary of where the traffic's gonna be right now.
I'm not sure. I was just thinking that would be fewer feet
Right.
of parking, if it were just one, and it might be easier to navigate, that's all. So
We-
where it should go, I don't know.
We have a lot more property on the south side. Do you think it's doable for people to park with the 7-foot width, with the 1 foot added for the cut gutter, so they
No,
have,
The 7 foot includes the 1 foot of gutter.
it includes it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But you'd only
Bob,
need-
is that, oh, I'm sorry, Anna, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, but you'd only need 13.5, right, total if you did the other, so versus 14
Yeah,
plus the
and-
gutter?
That's correct. And so what we can do, it sounds like there may be 2 options we can do with keeping our existing curb lines, is one, doing slanted parking on one side of the street, or either reducing the parallel parking from 8 to 7. If we reduce it from 8 to 7, that includes the curb line. We can go back, draw those 2 sections out, be ready to present them at your next meeting, and have a cost impact for both.
Do you get more spots if you do the slanted parking?
I don't know.
I don't
I'd have to
either.
do math.
I'm just curious.
It's generally.
I mean, parallel,
But you lose it
you're
on
looking at
one side,
length.
Right.
So it takes up less
Yeah, I just didn't.
width versus length, so
Yeah, I mean,
you should.
that's just another thing to consider, I guess. And if it's fewer, that might not be good. I don't know. But it might be more.
I think a question to ask is, with our new buildings coming in there, is there a parking ordinance with the square footage like there is in most places, where you have to have per square foot so many parkings, and is that going to be taken into account with street parking? So street parking plus their own private parking?
Well, the street parking will 7 to 18, 9 to 20, somewhere in that range.
Uh,
9 by 20 or 7 by 18 at the smallest.
And I think what Councilman Marr was asking was, when you go and, like we have, you have to have 20 parking spots, and I'm just using Taco Bell, this is not a real thing, and they needed 20 parking spots, could they use the public park? I've never been able to use them, and
I
I've
think you have
tried.
to satisfy that on site.
Yeah, you have to
on-
satisfy
on-
that on your site.
We're about to look at that in more detail when we get into the code itself. But in past practice, in a downtown environment, we typically allow for some utilization or counting of the public parking spaces, so that a site is not double parked or over parked.
As a
And there has to
percentage
be,
of the overall
certain-
businesses.
There has to be certain rules applied to that. It has to be within certain proximity of the business and various other conditions associated with it. But yes, you would be able to count to some degree what's available on the public right of way.
That's very unusual, but that's nice. Okay. Do you think, Bob, 7-foot parking lanes would work?
I do. I mean, it's small. Bert would have a more expert opinion than mine, but I have seen them at 7.
Yeah, I can say that 7 was our standard width. In Chattanooga, I think especially paired with an 11-foot lane, it's appropriate. I mean, I've often done 10-foot lanes and 7-foot parking. That's about as tight as you can get. But, you know, if I did hear concern that people aren't used to, you know, parallel parking, and, you know, to compensate for that, the spaces could just be made longer. They could be 7 by 22. It gives you a lot more room to maneuver in and out of. So that's something to keep in mind too. If you think that, you know, 7 could be a challenge for some drivers, they could be made longer to compensate for that.
Oh, I like that. Longer would be better, because see, we can't do it right now the way it's, and really, when you're looking at the 11-foot wide lane, we're adding a foot, but the parallel parking, we've got to think there's not going to be a white line on the side of the road. We're only going to have them perpendicular for the parking spaces. So people will be able to think, because it's parallel parking.
Yeah, you'll have a T.
Yeah, you'll have,
Couple feet. They're gonna get as close to the curb as they can,
they are.
regardless of where the striping is.
And the lane width is going to look, I think not having the white striping on the side and just having the perpendicular parking will be an illusion that it's bigger than 11. You're not going to stripe a white line and box in the parallel parking. You're just doing perpendicular white lines to mark off the parking spaces and a white center line, right?
Right, but we don't wanna give the illusion, and Bob, correct, or Bert, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe we wanna give the illusion that our lanes are wider than 11 feet, because that's what's gonna increase flow. You know, the illusion of a smaller and not having a smaller is better, because it's gonna slow them down and we won't have as many accidents.
11 is small, so they're going to slow down because we can't do that on East Aloha.
Is it Bob that's on the phone? That's the expert?
A typical striping would be, you know, a yellow, double yellow center line. Between the lane and the parking lane could either be dashed white, not dashed, but dotted white, or it could just be the parking T's and L's.
Yeah, the parking T's.
Really, T's and L's are probably better to define the exact dimensions of the parking space. I think that's what you're shooting for, you know, in this case. But I think it could be both, actually. You know, like you mentioned, the problem on East Aloha that the curb is there, but there are no buildings or sidewalks. Makes it feel real kind of strange. In this case, you know, building the streets with the parking spaces, with the T's and L's, I think people wouldn't feel so constrained at first once the buildings started developing and people started using the parking, then you would get that constrained feel, but then it would feel normal and natural, more like when you're driving down, Government Street.
And then if we see the 7 feet isn't working, then it's just a matter of restriping and moving it out a foot.
That's right.
Okay. I'm
And
so sold on that idea.
I'm just thinking now, the town center has a lot more straightaways than East Aloha, which has kind of a curvy bend to it. And so I'm wondering if maybe we could just stick with the 10 feet and the 8 feet parking spot. Because if it's more straightaways, then people aren't gonna be maneuvering, and maybe there won't be as many. Well, I know there's the one
Oh, yeah, that's
to the circle,
curvy.
but I'm just saying, maybe it doesn't have to be. Because if they're in a new place, like, we're also dealing with where they're used to going to a place and going 20 miles faster. If you're in a new place where you're actually building it for the first time, then maybe the 10 feet would work there, because people would just naturally be inclined to go, it's brand new, slow, and kind of see what's around. That's just my thoughts, because when you're going to a shopping center that's already in use, you want to get in and get out, and there's no buildings there to kind of slow you down and say, oh, we got to look at this, look at that. So maybe I'm rethinking that maybe 10 feet
Burr.
would work.
Bert, if you were gonna redraw this starting over today, you're in charge. Bert and Bob, you're gonna be getting together. Would you draw this exactly the same way as you did here on this thing? If it was in Ocean Springs, Diamond Head, Bay St. Louis?
Yeah, I definitely would. The 10, I think the 10 and 8 is a good combo for the context and the street type. I really do. But I think an 11 and a 7 is a good compromise. I think it could work also, and it would be easy to adjust it later.
I'm in for the 11-7.
He's starting to sound like an attorney now.
He is. I was thinking Derek was on the phone.
Yeah. I think both
Just
ideas
kidding.
will work.
I think so too. I'm in for the 11-7 because I see we need what we have now, and if you take another foot away, I don't know how residents are going to do it. So I'm in for the 11-7.
But because it's a striping really issue, does that?
No, it doesn't change anything.
The
Well, we good to
11-7
go?
does. The 11, we're gonna have to move every bulb out.
Oh
for
yeah,
the
you are.
11-7.
Just
Right,
the bulb
10-8
out,
stays the same. All the bulb outs and radius will be pulled in.
and that's not difficult work. The bulb out.
I have a
Do you
concern with in my mind, driving is easier than parking. So if we're gonna take space away from a lane that you drive in, wouldn't it be more difficult to park in a more narrow space than it would be to drive in a 10-foot wide lane? I would think that would be easier to get used to than trying to, and that's all this is gonna be, is a place to go and park and shop, right? They're not cut through roads to get from one neighborhood to another.
Well, it sounded like maybe what we needed to do was drop off some of the quantity of parallel parking to make them longer.
Mhm.
And then
Easier to get in
that
and
was
out.
already one of the
22
things
feet.
we-
I like
Looks
that
there are already
suggestion.
22 on here. I
What's
think
that?
there are already 22 on what we have.
Well, I mean, we
So you
could
may
do.
not have to, is what I'm saying.
Bert, what about a 10 and 8, and we still drop the bulb outs? Move the bulb outs in, so, at the bulb out locations, you're a true 10 plus foot. So it makes almost an 11 at the bulb, but that doesn't give you as much protection to the parked cars.
Yeah, you could move of course, the bulb outs, they're the rollover curb. Correct.
Only, they're the rollover curve only at the intersections.
Right. So I think if you're going to go to 11-foot lanes, it would be appropriate to put the edge of pavement at 11 feet. And, start the bottom slope of your rollover curve at 11 feet if it's a 11-foot lane. And so it would not be a flush gutter.
Okay.
I like the 11 feet because I see the difficulties on East Aloha. And if you take a foot off of what we're already having trouble with, I just can't even envision it. And the parallel parking, I've only seen one person ever utilize it on East Aloha. you know, and we're years out before they're gonna be using this. You know, we don't have businesses there yet. We hope we do, but we're years out on having those parallel parking spots even utilized. But they're gonna be ready to use that road the day it's finished, to be able to cut from Noma to the business district, to have golf carts be able to drive down it. People are so ready to get this project completed.
So from Noma Circle to where we tie into existing park
Mhm.
tent, that already is 11.
Okay, that's
10
good.
plus a gutter.
Okay, good.
Just so you're aware.
Okay. Any other comments? So are y'all still confused?
You
I
can
think
tell
we
us
need
one
to-
more time.
I
So,
think we need to prepare some options and see what we can do and see where, to make sure we're not saying something we can't do that's at one of these.
Okay, and then come back January 3rd? Well, thank you all, because this was excellent, and this really opened the conversation. And we don't want you redoing stuff, but we do want the residents to be able to get down the street without stress.
We want to save everybody's taxpayers' monies as much as possible.
We don't want any complaints after the fact either, so.
No, you don't. And this is coming with everything on it, so it's gonna look beautiful. The whole concept that Orion put together is gorgeous, and we're excited to, when are we getting phase 2 done, speaking of that?
I was about to ask that question. Phase 2 on East Aloha starts when?
I don't have that schedule with me, but I will get you that answer.
January 3rd?
January
It won't
3rd?
be, yeah, I'll have that answer January 3rd on the
Okay.
schedule.
Yes. Thank you, and y'all have a merry,
Mayor,
yes.
Mayor, did I understand that, that the West Side project we're discussing now will come with the appurtenances associated with it?
It will come with the jewelry on it.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You all have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
We haven't even got to
Thank
the city
you.
manager's report yet.
Okay.
Good meeting, though, good meeting.
It was. So now we are going to, any public comments? The public has left the room beside two and Captain Luther. Okay. City managers report?
All right, yes, just give you a couple of updates on the other projects we have. McKeekee Drive, Diamond Head Water and Sewer is repairing the sewer line there, and the contractor is working to install the steel casing around the water line and then the ductile iron pipe for the sewer line connection. It's probably going to be another 2 weeks of the road being closed until all that gets put together. But the current contract ends January 9, 2023, so there's probably going to have to be another extension of time on this one, or if not, then we'll have to look at damages for that one. The Twin Lake Park and Dog Park, the projected cost is a little higher than we were anticipating, and so we're working at exploring funding options to cover the additional cost. Once we have those final costs covered within the budget, we'll get permission to advertise that project. The Phase 4 paving, and that's on your agenda tonight to give a change order to Huey P. Stockstill. The paving project is currently demobilized until the area around Bayou Circle is completed by Diamond Head Water and Sewer. So the project ended December 17th, so the 60-day change order that's on the agenda tonight will give them until February 15th. We're also trying to put in a culvert there on Bayou Drive to prevent the water from shedding over the road and instead go under the road through a culvert into the ditch on the other side. That will be improving the safety of that road as well. Hilo Way, the engineer's working on with the contractor to make all the adjustments needed. The contractor is currently checking on material availability, and once we have all that, we'll issue the notice to proceed on that project. And then the traffic study that we did on Kaloa and Kapalama Drive is complete, and we're waiting on a report for that to be finalized. But we've expanded that project to also include the High Point Golf Club Drive and the two new roads possibly being included by Elliott Homes and the Preserve that will come out into those same areas. So we need to look at that whole thing and see how we can make all of that work a little bit better instead of having all that road frontage coming in and out of Golf Club Drive there. because that's also where the main crossover for the golf carts are. So it's something that Covington's working on to look at that whole project and see how we can make that a safer place for the whole drive. So, and that's it. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions to my left?
Just a couple. Anything on the Ramada?
Nothing new on the
Nothing new?
Ramada at this point, no, unfortunately.
Just had to ask.
Yeah, no problem.
Also on Makiki, is there not a thorough through? Can you not get through there?
The road itself is dug up, but residents can get to either side. Either you go north, I guess east to Bayou Drive and get out to
Right.
if you're on that side of the road, or you go west and get on.
The last I heard, there weren't any signs saying that, you can't go all the way through.
There are now.
I agree.
They
We
put 'em up?
put
Okay.
the city has put up some barricades of our own, showing that the road is closed to help residents know that
'cause last I
if
heard
you start
bus-
down that way, you can't.
Yeah,
so-
last I heard, buses were having to go
Yeah.
down and turn around and come back
Right.
and stuff like that. So I was just-
And they would still have to, because of course they have to drive down there and drop the students off in the certain roads. But there are a few cul-de-sacs on that road that they can pull into. Hopefully it's enough for them to turn around and get back out of. But Diamond Head Fire Department's been notified. They're aware as well. So if they need to respond to a fire, they need to know which way to go. So we've notified them and told them that expect at least another 2 weeks of that road being closed.
I'm done.
Any questions to my left? Any questions to my right? And I just want to say thank you for getting out there, John, in Public Works and putting those barricades up. Thank you very much from Makiki, because that was an issue. People thought they could go through, and then it ends at the Robinsons' property, and everybody was turning around their yards.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Motion to approve the December 6th, 2022 regular meeting minutes.
So moved.
Motion made by Councilwoman Lisi. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Marr. All in favor?
Aye.
Whoops, we already did that one. Resolution 2023-087. Motion to adopt Resolution 2023-009, thereby abandoning a 5-foot drainage utility easement on each side of the common property line between lots 11 and 12, Diamond Head Phase 1, Unit 2, amended Block 10. The physical address is 7215 Akiki Drive, Akakai Drive, parcel number 068K041028.000, Hanks being the owner. Could I get a motion? Motion made by Councilman Clark. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Marr. Any discussion to my left? Any discussion to my right? City Clerk.
Finley,
Yes.
Lisi.
Yes.
Cumberland.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Marr.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Could I get a motion to approve consent agenda items 4 through 12 and the 2 additions, 17 and 18?
So moved.
13.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry. Oh, that was a budget amendment. You need that money, don't you, John? Okay. With 4 through 13 and 17 and 18. Motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilwoman Lisi. Second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Marr. All in favor? Aye. Action agenda item 2023-095. Motion to approve the re-subdivision of plat of Lot 47, Diamond Head Lake subdivision Phase 1. Motion?
Move.
Motion made by Councilman Finley. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Clark. Any discussion to my left? To my right? And this is to make room for the United States Postal Service mailbox distribution center on all subdivisions platted in the United States. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Claims payable. Could I get a motion for number 15? We're just
Move.
going to go like that.
Move.
Councilman Finley, could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Marr. All in favor?
Aye.
Could I get a motion to approve docket of claims DK 223-017-DKY 23042 in the amount of $280,545.01?
Move.
Motion made by Councilman Finley. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Clark. All in favor?
Aye.
Could I get a motion to approve department reports We've got a menagerie here, so let's just go with A, and it's got B under it, not the second B. So we're doing A and B.
I move.
Motion made by Councilman Clark. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilwoman Finley. All in favor? Aye.
Councilwoman Finley.
Councilwoman Lisi, I am so
Okay.
sorry. It has been a long night. Okay. So any non-agenda public comments? None at all. Any need for executive session? None at all. All right. So with that being said, I would like to adjourn the meeting tonight in honor of our fallen officers of the City of Bay St. Louis, Sergeant Stephen Robin and Officer Brandon Astoff. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilwoman Lisi. All in favor?
Aye. God bless.
Good night. Thank you, and everybody have a Merry Christmas.